Welcome to Rock Your Reinvention, where I help high-achieving career women like you get unstuck, make your corporate exit strategy, and successfully transition to your next chapter. Hi, I'm your host, Karen Freeland, a certified life coach and corporate exit strategist. Whether you want to start a business, become a speaker, or something else, I'm here to give you the tools and strategies to shift your mindset, build your confidence, and take bold actions so you can rock your reinvention. Ready? Let's go. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Rock Your Reinvention. Today, I am joined by Jennifer Della Quadri. She is a life coach for women, speaker, and the host of the Subtle Shifts podcast. She believes every change starts with a subtle shift and that it's never too late to create the life you truly want. And I could not agree more, which is why I'm so excited to have her here today. Welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Thank you so much for having me, Karen. I'm so excited to be here and talk about my experience and get to know you and your audience a little better.
Yeah, me too. And I know that you have had quite the reinvention yourself. So there is a lot to dig in here, but I thought we could just start since you're all about subtle shifts. And what is the subtle shift that got you to where you are today?
Well, it's so interesting because I didn't realize it was subtle shifts or a subtle shift in the past. It wasn't until just recently where I'm like, you know what? That's it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know what it is for me? I'll just share a little bit about my story to give you some context. So a few years ago, probably, I think it was 2018, I was still working in my previous career, which is working as an elementary school teacher. I've been doing that for 14 years. I loved teaching. I loved working with kids. And I was living in San Diego with my family. I had, as you can imagine, many of your clients can experience, checked off all the boxes.
Mm.
I got my degree. I got married. I bought the house. I had the kids. I got the job, like all the things. And I was there in that experience, in all of the success, feeling dissatisfied and feeling like this kind of burning in my stomach, like anxiety, like that something is out of alignment.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what it was. And so I started that school year, and it was like the very first day of like the welcome back. And the principal was bringing us all in, and yay, we're having a new school year. And I felt such dread. And I just was sitting there like, what is happening? This is exactly where I thought I wanted to be, but I don't feel good about it.
Yeah.
And so that was the beginning of the transformation. Just the acknowledgement that something wasn't in alignment for me anymore. And it wasn't just my career. It was where we were living. Like, we had a nice house, but we were really maxed out. We were living in a pretty expensive area. San Diego is not the cheapest place to live. We were making ends meet, but it wasn't the lifestyle that I wanted.
Yeah.
Not just financially, but just in general. It just didn't, there was a mismatch. And so the first shift, as I like to say it, is just acknowledging the dissatisfaction. Having the courage to be like, okay, if this isn't going to be the thing that makes me happy, if this is checking all of these boxes, what then? So just being able to acknowledge, I don't feel right now.
Yeah. And I love that you're bringing that up, because I think there's a lot of somatic signs when we are in need of a reinvention, when things are not working for us, and we just brush them off. Oh, well, I have headaches all the time at work. It must be looking at the screen all day, or it must be, just I've always been a person who gets headaches, or, oh, I have stomach and gut issues, like, but never really putting together the fact that, like, oh, this always happens at work or right before I leave the house for work. Like, this is telling you something.
And I had never been someone who felt that way. I didn't move through my life like that. I always like to see opportunities and be able to connect with people and feel aligned. And this was a new feeling for me.
Yeah.
I couldn't pinpoint what it was at the time. I knew for sure that it had to do with where I was in my career. I knew that that wasn't for me anymore.
Yeah.
And that was scary for me because that's what I studied for. That's what I'd been doing for 14 years. I'd worked my way up the scale to where I was making a good amount of money as a teacher, which is hard to imagine because teachers don't get paid very well.
Right.
But it was because I'd been teaching for so long.
Yeah. So
And
what was
so that
that?
was scary for me, right? Like, what? Wait a second. If I don't do this, then what then?
So what did you do with that? Because I think, we all have different responses. Some of us are like, okay, let me lean into this. Let me explore
Yeah.
this. Others are like, oh no, that is inconvenient and I don't even want to go there. So how did you grapple with that?
So, my background, in addition to being an educator, I'm also a yoga instructor. I like to say my calling in life is teaching. So,
Yes.
in any capacity, I love teaching. So, part of being a yoga instructor is having a very long running yoga practice. And with yoga practice is a meditation and it's all combined. So, meditation mindfulness was a big part of my life.
Yeah.
So, for me, that involved going inward and getting curious. So much of the dissatisfaction can come with a side of judgment. Like, I failed, I picked the wrong thing, this is my fault, I've run myself into the ground, I've gotten myself stuck, like all of the self blame.
Yeah.
But when you're able to stop and center yourself and instead get curious about what's coming up, what is my body trying to tell me right now? What is this feeling here for? Whether it's anxiety, doubt, dread, fear, whatever, depression, whatever those feelings are, what's the message here? What's behind this? And get curious with it
Yeah.
and give yourself time to let it land. For me, as an overachiever, high achieving person, I would tend to put a lot of pressure on myself to have the answers now. Okay, well, Monday I'm dissatisfied at work. Tuesday I need to have a plan for how to get myself out of here.
Yes, right. I resonate with that a lot.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Right? And so, of course, part of that is the introspection, but the patience that comes with it. You have to be able to be patient and allow yourself to process it before you decide what's next. And that patience for a high achieving person is very challenging. That's like one of the hardest things to do. Like, I wanted it yesterday.
Right. And I think that
Mhm.
that's an easy place for us to get stuck in. We know we're dissatisfied. We've had the realization and the acknowledgement. And now what? How do we
Yeah.
actually move through, and have the patience to do the self discovery and the work that needs to be done to get us from point
Mhm.
A to point Z? So, what did that look like for you? What were some of the things that you started to do to figure out what this next chapter could look like?
Yeah, so that really did involve a lot of exploration. So inner exploration, then also outer exploration. So I started reading a lot of books.
Hmm.
I started doing like research, like what else is out there, listening to podcasts. At that time, I had never really listened to many podcasts, but I wanted to learn from the people who were out there. And then for me also hiring a coach
Hmm.
and also getting my very first therapist. I'd never, if all my years of telling everyone therapy is so important, everyone should have a therapist, I never had a therapist because I was like, well, everyone but me, because
Right.
I can figure it out on my own. I'm fine. That was it. I'm fine. That was my
Yep.
message to myself. But finally acknowledging, like, I can't figure this out on my own. There are some things that I need to process that I want support with. And so I had a therapist and a coach. My therapist was helping me heal a lot of stuff, and my coach was helping me figure out what's next.
I
And it
love that.
right?
Yeah, because we
Fantastic.
need to be able to ask for help. There's
Yeah.
no shame in getting help. And I was like you before I started my whole like self-help junkie and getting, all my coaches where I really thought same thing. Like it's for other people. It's not for
Yeah.
me. I can handle this. I'll figure out a path forward. And everything got easier when I got a coach.
Mhm.
Everything.
Yeah, because it helps you get from A to B with a lot less guesswork and a lot less feeling around and trial and error. My coach helped me cut through all of the noise.
Yep.
Like bottom lining, like, what is it here? And then also lovingly pointing out both of them, pointing out my self sabotaging behaviors,
Mhm.
which for me was over functioning. Like I was doing everything, I was saying yes to everything. And it was coming from this nurturing side. I lead with heart. And so I want to be able to help everyone and do everything and like make everyone else's existence happy, but to my own detriment. and I didn't realize it. And I also didn't realize my perfectionistic tendencies. I didn't
Mhm.
even know that I was a perfectionist until my therapist lovingly pointed out some of my habits and behaviors. And once I got those realizations, I was like, oh, wait, I don't have to be like this.
Ah, it's a
Right? Like,
choice, right?
it's a choice. I don't have to say yes to everything. It's okay for me to ask for help. So that's the thing is like you said, aligning yourself with a person on the outside who's detached from your outcome
Mhm.
to hold up a mirror and just be like, "Hey, this is where you are and this is I want to show you yourself so that you can make a conscious decision about who you want to continue to be and what parts of you you're willing to shed and let go of."
Yeah, that's so powerful too, because when you let go of some of that and you get that good, clear reflection in the mirror and you make a choice about how you want to show up going forward, I mean, sky's the limit, right? There's so many
Yeah,
possibilities from there.
so much. Yeah. So these were all things that happened after my very first subtle shift was just
Mhm.
being aware and recognizing. But then from there, it was like making decisions, doing small actions, learning about myself, and then also just being curious throughout the whole process. So through that whole thing, I had a chance to, if not this, then what? You
Yes.
think about that. Like, if it's not going to be this, then what could it be? And that began the exploration process. And again, my coach helped me so much with that. Of course, my therapist did too. My fears around, and of course, self doubts and the stories I've been telling myself for years about why I couldn't and that wasn't for me, and all of those things. And
Mhm.
working through those things and kind of knocking them down, like removing the garbage, as it were, so that I could start to see the path.
Yeah.
I
That's
wouldn't have seen that path if I hadn't been able to address the garbage that was in the way.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I'm so glad you
Yeah.
addressed the garbage because now you have this beautiful path. And, in your quest to design this life that you loved, I know we have similar stories. You actually moved your
Yes.
family, which I did as well. So, can you tell me a little bit more about the move and what prompted you to do that? And then ultimately, like, what are some of the benefits that you've experienced since making the shift and moving?
Yeah. So, like I said, when I was in my conversations with my coach and figuring out what I wanted, it was through those conversations that I realized that I wanted to become a coach. So that was the first thing. And then I enrolled in a coach certification program. Around that same time, so this was the same school year, around that same time, my family, and when I say family, I mean I have a family of four, my husband and my two kids, but then I also have my parents and I have my sister and my brother in law and her two kids. And then I have my cousin and their kids and my uncle. We were all living in San Diego.
Wow.
And we had all kind of been joking around, laughing, imagining how wonderful it would be if we lived in the Pacific Northwest. We'd visited there a few times. We thought it'd be beautiful, how fun if we all like bought property and were neighbors. It would be so fantastic, so fun. And we all knew at the time, like, it's all of us or none of us. Like, we're not, one of us is not going to go. We're all going, or no one's going. And so the conversation started to get a little bit more serious. And then my dad started looking for properties, and lo and behold, a property came up. And we went up and looked at it, and it was exactly what we wanted, just the right size. And we're like, okay, well, are we going to do it? And we all said yes.
Wow. That's so cool.
Yeah. And so that was probably around April of that same school year. While I was in this certification program, still teaching, we all said, this is it, we're doing it. And we all put our houses on the market. We sold our houses. And by that, we left at the beginning of August and moved up 1,000 miles Pacific Northwest, where we now live in our 20-acre compound. We've all built custom homes, and that's what's happened since. But that was less than a year from that day of sitting in the school meeting thinking this ain't it. I had moved 1,000 miles with my family. There were 17 of us that had literally packed our cars and moved on the same day. We were now living in the Pacific Northwest, and I was working as a coach.
That is phenomenal. Because
Uh-huh.
I mean, well, here's one of the things that I love about this, right? Yes, you're coaching, But it's not this like crazy far stretch from teaching, right? There's elements of coaching your students, right? You have probably always had coaching tendencies within you. And sometimes when people think of reinvention, I think they're like, oh, I'm going to go be an astronaut now, or like do something that's so far fetched. And I'm not telling you not to. Like, if you have a dream to go be an astronaut, sister, sign up for a program, like, do it. But I think more times than not, the key is right under our nose. It's something we've been doing the whole time. And I think about even when I was in corporate, I was always coaching the next level of talent. Like I that was my favorite part, right? Was giving them career guidance and supporting their journey. It only would make sense that I now just get to do that professionally and cut out the middleman, right? Like I don't have to do it
Yeah.
through somebody else. So that's one thing that really stood out for me, and you just taking this leap of faith in coaching, but then also in just being open to such a drastic move, right?
Yeah.
And going to a completely different area and giving it a shot. That takes a lot of courage.
It does. And also another layer of the subtle shifts that I was doing throughout had to do with believing in my ability to create a life that did feel good.
Yeah.
And so at the time, I didn't know what that was going to look like. I imagined in my mind what it would look like, but I was more tapping into the way it would feel to me to have whatever that life was,
Mhm.
and letting that feeling be the guidepost versus the actual outcome, like what I
Yeah.
visualized in my head, what my house or whatever would look like. It was more just how will I feel when this is here? And then bringing more of that feeling into my life on a regular basis, and then believing that this is the journey. This is where I want to be. This is how I want to feel. It's this or something better. And
Mm.
then constantly tapping into that and reminding myself, this is where I'm going. Even on those days when I would wake up and I would just be exhausted and feel stuck and think, nothing is moving, nothing is happening, I'm going to be here forever. I would still spend quiet moments reflecting and sitting in that feeling that I was wanting to bring into my life.
Yeah, this or something better. I love that because you're just, again, like opening up the possibilities.
Mhm.
And we limit our creator a lot of times. We limit the universe because of our own worthiness. And I think sometimes when we are making these changes, there is healing that needs to happen. And we do need to believe that we are worthy of this lifestyle. Because there's days I don't work that hard. I don't work nearly as hard as I used to work in corporate. I'll never work that hard again because it was insane how hard I
Yeah.
was working. But, when I have a light day, there are still times where I have this little voice. You didn't work hard enough today, Karen.
Yeah.
Are you really worthy of still collecting this paycheck or this, that, when you're not working the way you used to work? And I have to constantly retrain my brain like, no, I'm so worthy of this. My
Mhm.
amount of hours has nothing to do with my pay. Like they're not
Yeah.
correlated. So I don't know,
Yeah.
did you have to do any work around worthiness or was this
Oh,
just come easy?
this is a constant thing
Okay.
for me. This is not, I did the work and now I have it figured out. This is a constant work.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as you. Like now that my life is vastly different, I still sit in the I didn't work enough hours. I need to, put in more effort versus, the things that I'm actually doing and trading time for money and all of those things. It's a constant evaluation of identity and who am I and who do I want to be. This is a lifelong evaluation and evolution.
Yeah, so true. And I wanted to say one other thing before we moved on, but what I loved is you were like, I'm taking a certification while working my job. And so it's
Uh-huh.
okay to do that exploration while you're still getting paid by the company that pays
Mhm.
you. I mean, I edited my whole first book on the company's dime. Thank you very much. And that's fine, right? So don't feel like you have to quit today
Yeah.
or make that leap right away, but you're doing the things to allow you to make the leap later. And I thought that that was just really, I wanted to call that out.
Oh, for sure. You have your security while you're setting yourself up for this next step.
Right. Exactly. Okay, so let's talk about starting this business. So you're like, okay, I'm getting this life coaching certification. At some point, you had to give notice and be like, I'm not coming back next year, guys. Like, this is it. And I imagine that there were some fears that you might have had to overcome about starting a business on your own. So, can you talk a little bit about that and how you overcame those fears?
This is what was probably the most challenging thing is as an educator, I had zero experience building a business.
Mhm.
I didn't know sales, marketing, none of it. I knew how to help people and I
Right.
was getting trained in how to coach people, but I had no idea how to market my services or sell my services. So, truth be told, the biggest growth experience in being an entrepreneur was learning those things. And for me, it was the visibility part of it. Like I have to be in front of people. I have to say these things. I have to talk, and sell myself. Whereas the nurturing, like I'm the supportive role person, has been at the forefront for so long.
Mhm.
It took a lot of inner work and a lot of coaching to become the person who feels confident talking in front of people.
Yeah.
So, as I was evolving as a coach, I was also evolving as a person and developing a greater degree of confidence so that I could be in front of the people who needed what I was offering. Otherwise, I would just be sitting in the back thinking, gosh, I hope somebody shows up.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I'll tell you, build it and they will come does not work. It is
Unfortunately,
not a
it does
strategy.
not. You can be the best coach in the world, but if people don't know you exist, they're not going to hire you.
So true. And what I love about this, and it's so encouraging, and I hope it's giving you some hope if you're listening right now, is that you learned it. It's a
Mhm.
skill that can be honed. We so often think, oh, well, I've got to suddenly be on camera. I've got to do social posts, or I'm not a marketer. I wasn't born as an extrovert. I can't do
Yeah.
this, Karen. But really, what we're hearing from you, Jennifer, is that you're like, yeah, this wasn't my skill set either. I didn't start out as a marketer. I'd been in education my whole life. I didn't know what I was doing and I learned. And everybody can learn.
And I did what was helpful for me was I took the things that I'm already good at
Hmm.
and I leaned into those. I already know how to teach. Like I could teach in my sleep. I love teaching. And so I let it be about teaching versus about like, hey, everybody, look at me. I have the answers to all of your life questions. And it also took me being able to think about how the things that I'm teaching helped me in my life. So being able to be more vulnerable and sharing my personal stories so that other people can relate and understand. Like, yes, I this is a method that I've developed, but I developed it through my life experience and also in working with all of these different clients and it's helped all of them too. So taking the things that I'm already inherently good at, my gifts, whatever they may be, very clear on what those are,
Hmm.
and not letting the things that I don't know take the spotlight. So
Yes.
leaning into the strengths and letting the things that I want to build up along the way as I do that.
Yeah. Cause I mean, shining the spotlight on our weaknesses, that's never helpful for us, you know?
Don't do that.
No, exactly. And I think that's so many of us do. And we let it hold
Yeah.
us back from taking that leap into entrepreneurship because we haven't run a business before and we don't have it all figured out.
Yeah, and that's the thing too is part of one of the things I love to do is to speak into microphones. I know that sounds really weird.
No,
Maybe not to you.
nope. I get it.
But even when I was teaching first grade, we had a mic system in the classroom so that the students could hear us. And there was a headset available. I didn't have one in my room and I could have asked for one, but I didn't. I liked using the microphone.
Yeah.
And so now, lo and behold, I have a podcast. Surprise, surprise. And then it takes me all the way back to when I was a child. One of the things I loved to do was get a tape recorder with my sister and we would record a radio program.
Yes.
So these are all things that we all know. Like you can look back on your life experience and think, what types of things did I do for fun? What do I like doing? What do I feel naturally good at? And letting that be how you guide yourself and how you market yourself versus like this is what everybody else is telling me I need to do. So I need to do that.
Right. Oh my gosh, I even think back when I was a kid, like if there was a camera, I found a way to get on it, right?
Yeah.
Like always. And I was always on stage performing as a dancer.
Uh-huh.
So it only makes sense that I would be on stage speaking and doing all these
Yeah.
things now, Like, yeah, the apple really doesn't fall that far from the tree.
So true.
So now that you've been doing this for a while, you've been coaching people, you've had your own business, you've made this big shift. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned on your journey to become an entrepreneur?
The biggest lesson I've learned is the importance of learning how to hear and trust your own intuition.
Oh, thank you. Tell me more.
Because, and I'm sure many you and your listeners can relate. You wake up, you look at Instagram, and you're immediately hit with ads, influencers, people who are like, do this thing to 10x your business. There's podcasts. This is the routine you need to do to set up your business success. And you can easily be pulled into that and think, oh, that's the magic. If I do that, then XYZ is going to happen. All my goals will be reached. But there's so much noise. And so you could get 10 different ideas, take them all in and be like, okay, I need to implement these, but then it's overwhelming and then you don't do crap because you're like, there's too many things. I'm just going to shut down my computer and go watch Netflix because I don't know. Nothing's going to work. I don't know.
Yes.
Right. So when I say tap into your intuition, that means tuning out the noise, whatever methodology works for you to get quiet and hear your inner voice. So for some people, it might be going for a walk. Exercising is a big one. That's where I get a lot of intuition and a lot of insights, or meditation, journaling, listening to music, dancing, playing a game, whatever it is that gets your vibration higher and also gets you to quiet down the outer noise, whatever strategy that you find works for you. And this is the subtle shift, is making it a habit for you to do it intentionally, regularly.
Yeah.
Just like you would maybe, without realizing it, your habit is to get up and pick up your phone and read 10 different posts about 10 different things that you can do. Instead, replace that, spending 10 minutes listening to yourself and maybe journaling it and things like that and reflecting upon it too. But you know better than anyone else what you need to do.
So true.
And maybe that might mean what I need to do is hire somebody who can help me sort through this or help me implement this next step. But it's your decision. It's not somebody else telling you what you need.
Yes. Thank you. I'm so glad that you're bringing this up. I just did a podcast, episode 77, on trusting your intuition, because I am starting to see people being overcoached.
Yeah.
They are relying on their coach for everything. And true coaching is not telling you do A, B, and C, but there is this whole business coach trend where the coach really is coming in and they're acting more like a consultant and saying, these are the things you need to do and you need to implement. True coaching is, well, what do you think you could do? What are ways that you would like to show up or that you think you could add revenue to your top line, right? Those, and having those conversations. And I know you know this, but people listening might be like, well, what is the difference between coaching and giving guidance, right? And so what I think I see people doing is they're getting so much guidance from these quote unquote coaches that then they stop listening to their own intuition because they think, well, they're the one who's successful. They've got it right. And if I don't do it the way they're doing it, then the way I want to do it must be wrong. And that is not true. So I know as a coach, it's like you don't ever want to tell someone like to stop coaching, but sometimes you need to take a break. Like if you've been in a heavy coach sprint for a while, like take a couple months off and just go back to your intuition and then see if you need to go back to coaching, or maybe you need to switch up your coach. I don't know. So those are just some thoughts I had that has been like on my mind lately.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that's actually something that I recently did. I found myself coach hopping, thinking that a new coach would have all of the answers that I was looking for. Well, this person said it this way and that resonates. But then I actually stopped and I thought, what if I just answered my own questions for a little
Oh,
bit?
yes.
And and this is another thing, I've had a recent reinvention. That is what led me to do a complete rebrand a few months ago.
Really?
Yes, complete rebrand. I mean, I didn't even bring this up, but 4 years I was a coach for teenagers and parents of teenagers. And that's what my podcast was. And that's what my platform was. And that's what I did. And the same process, my reinvention, same thing, the internal call, there's something different, leaning into it until I completely rebranded and said, you know what, I need to evolve as a coach. And now I coach women. So, yeah.
Wow.
And I at that time when I was like, I want to make a pivot, but I'm afraid to do it. I'm afraid to do it wrong. What if I make a pivot and nobody comes? Like all of those fears came up and I wanted to hire somebody. If I hire somebody, it'll be smoother, it'll be more successful, but I didn't. And I just said, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And I'm going to trust myself this time, trust that I'm making the right decision and listen to my own internal guidance before I even look outward and how else I can get support.
Oh, thank you for sharing that story and being a little vulnerable. I know as coaches, sometimes we think we got to be on 24/7 and we can't share any of our own like inner junk, right? But I love that you were so honest about that because then I think we get in our heads and we're like, but wait, I'm a coach and I'm having inner junk. There's something wrong with me. And there's nothing wrong with you, right? Trust yourself, trust your intuition, follow it, and just be okay because you're not going to steer yourself wrong. We never steer ourselves wrong.
This is so true. And when you follow your own guidance, you're making the decisions, and therefore you're the one who's going to be holding yourself accountable. And it makes you being the one who's like, well, I have to make the plan. I have to make the decision. I have to follow through. And it can be so easy to just offload it onto a coach and be like, well, they'll help me figure it out. They'll tell me what to do next. And then they may tell you something, but you listen because you paid them, but it doesn't feel right to you. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's like your little spidey senses going off. And it's okay to be
Mhm.
like, hey, coach, thanks for that information. But I'm not sure if that's going to work for me. Right. And then kind of explore,
Yeah.
well, okay, well, what would work for you? Right. Don't be afraid to speak up in that way. I've done that with some of my coaches before. I'm like, I hear what you're saying, but here's why I don't think this works for me specifically. And it's okay to own that.
Yeah, for sure. And I do have clients who come to me and they're like, well, just tell me what to do.
Mm,
And that's not my job
mm-mm.
because I'm not the one who has to live with the consequences of whatever is done. My job is to help you figure out what you want to do.
Yes. Amen. So if you have a coach that is telling you what to do, they're not really a coach.
Yeah. And if you don't know what you want to do, my job is to help you figure it out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. All
Yeah.
right. So,
So
one
good.
of the things I know now that you've done this rebrand and you're helping all these wonderful women who need support, you help them with overcoming burnout. And that is something that I am acutely familiar with. I've been in burnout myself. I've helped people overcome burnout, but I would love to hear some of your top strategies or tips that you recommend for anyone who's listening who wants to cut burnout out of their life for once and for all.
And I know we talked about the importance of awareness. It's first just acknowledging what's going on. What is happening in my life and is this something I want to continue? Right? And then the next step is to figure out what am I taking on that is not necessary or not aligned.
Mm.
So going back to just that same experience of when I was in dissatisfaction in my job, I was also not just teaching a full-time teaching first grade, all day. I was also teaching yoga on the weekends. I was also on the board of a charity league. I was a Girl Scout leader. Like I was doing everything.
Yeah.
And so for me, that meant offloading some of the things that I didn't need. For me, that meant letting go of teaching yoga on the weekends. And when it came to that, making the decision, there was a lot of fear. Like, if I let this go, I'm never going to be teaching yoga again. I'm so afraid of letting this part of me go, but also fear of disappointing the people that I was working with, fear of disappointing the people who were coming to my classes. They'll be so upset that I'm not coming. My yoga studio will be disappointed. I committed to this Saturday class and I'm now giving it up. I don't want to let people down. So that was acknowledging there's something that needed to go, but also having the courage to sit in the discomfort of disappointing other people with it.
Yeah.
They may be disappointed, and that's okay. Other people's disappointment, though, fear of other people's disappointment does not need to dictate your life,
Yes.
right? So then to go back to if you're burnt out, start offloading.
Mhm.
And part of that is evaluating the feelings that come up when you think about offloading. What does it mean about you if you're not the leader, if you're not the charity person, if you're not doing all of these things, you're not going to the store, like whatever it is you decide to offload, what does it mean about you if you no longer do these things? What are you making it mean about you if you don't?
Mhm. Yeah, making it mean. I love that, right? Because
Mhm.
I guarantee nobody else is like, "Oh god, Karen just hired a groomer. Whoa, what a lazy mom she is," or something. You
Right?
know what I mean? Like, nobody cares.
I'm not gonna be churning my own butter. I'm not gonna be, like that is not, fortunately, that's not the route I went down as far as the overachiever role, but we all have our flavors.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
So just intentionally offloading, and the subtle shift is the whole thing is like you don't have to offload everything all at once because that's really scary and it can feel really jarring for your nervous system to just be like, well, I'm going to cut out all these things. If you just pick one thing, what's one thing that you can let go of? And if it helps, create a time limit. Let go of it for 6 weeks. Step away from it for 6 weeks or offload it for 6 weeks and then reevaluate later and see how it's implemented or impacted your life
Yeah.
and then reevaluate. So it's a subtle shedding of the things that are no longer fitting into your life or draining your life.
Mhm.
And sometimes that's not just the doing, it's the
Yeah.
people you're surrounding yourself with, the things, it may not be that I'm so busy in my life. It may be that the people I'm interacting with are draining my energy. So I don't actually have the energy to do things I want to do. That's another part of burnout. So over functioning, surrounding yourself with people that are not in alignment or in your best interests and not
Mhm.
supporting you for sure. Doing that evaluation and then reevaluating and realigning constantly with curiosity. How is this impacting my life? How do I feel? What do I want to do next?
And I think it's really important because you mentioned kind of this idea of like, is it aligned? And so sometimes we say that, but it's like aligned to what? How do I know what's
Mhm.
aligned? And so if you have never taken the time to really map out your values, it can be tough to tell whether you are aligned or not. So one of the and I don't like to just what I think most people do is they go, "Oh, my values, okay." And they look up a list of words and they go, "Okay, I value family, I value this." And then they leave it there. And it's just a collection of words on a piece of paper that actually means nothing. And then they just go live their life however they've been living it. So, what I like to do is a weekly check in. So, maybe Friday afternoon, you just go back and you look at your whole week and you look at your values list and you're like, wow, I value being a team player. Okay. How this week was I a team player? In what areas of my life was I out of alignment with that? Or, oh, I really value being creative. Okay, well, what in my week allowed me to be creative? Ooh, nothing, or like, okay. And you kind of find these spots. And that's how you start to tell also, oh, this area of my life is really aligned and maybe this area isn't. Or these people are creating me a situation where I can't be aligned or I don't feel aligned. And so that's just like more of a tangible way that I have found. I mean, some of my clients have enjoyed looking at the alignment piece.
Yeah, and that's so true. The values assessment that I use has two components. So it's you're rating it, but then do you walk the talk in your
Hmm.
life? How is it actually showing up for you in your life? So, yeah, I could say family is my number one value, but what does that mean?
Yeah.
And unless you're actually looking back and evaluating how you're honoring that, you're never going to really know. It's just like you said, words on a wall
Yeah.
that don't they eventually they just are there and you don't even realize they're there anymore. So they're not really dictating your direction. They're more just like a fun Saturday activity that you did 3 months ago.
Right. Exactly. It's not
Yeah.
helping you. So that's, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and another really important method, this is a Stephen Covey thing, is the
Mm,
big rocks.
yes.
Have you heard of this, right? So
Yes.
you just figure out what's most important, and it has to do with values as well. But letting those big rocks be your priority and then figuring out what the pebbles are and what the sand is, but focusing on those big things first. But you have to know what they are
Yeah.
before you do it. Otherwise, you're just putting out fires left and right and at the whim of whatever comes your way without any intention.
No, I love that. And it makes it so much more tangible to start shedding that burnout, right? And start recuperating from it because it takes a toll. It's
Yeah.
not a quick fix, and it can take years depending on the severity of your burnout. At least I've found for me to really be in a place where like I don't get exhausted as easily now. Like I used to get so exhausted when I left corporate with just a couple things on my calendar because I was still dealing with a lot of burnout.
It's also what your nervous system is used to.
Mm,
So when you were working in corporate, likely you were used to being burnt out. And so if you went immediately from burnout to like, my life is so serene, you would panic. You'd be like, what is going on?
yes.
There's got to be some type of a like landing pad for you, for everybody, because you do what you're used to.
Mhm.
But once you start altering little things in your life to create a more calm and serene life, it's like soft. It's just a
Yeah.
little bit here and there so that it's not just all of a sudden, oh, my life is so, because that would be boring. And you would be
Yeah.
like, there's something has gone wrong.
Exactly. Yeah, you need like an off ramp, like
Uh-huh.
woo, go downhill.
Exactly.
Like
Deceleration.
yes, exactly. This
Yeah.
is so good, Jennifer. I could talk to you all day. I do have one more signature question that I love to ask all my guests, and that is, if you could say one thing to the woman listening who knows she wants to make a change, but she doesn't know how to get started, what would you say?
The call is coming for a reason. It's there for a reason. You've got something bigger for you, and you don't have to know what it is to do something today to make your life better. What I would recommend is to just acknowledge you hear the call and to be willing to say, okay, I'm going to do something about this. You don't have to know exactly how the end is going to look. You just need to take an action. What's my next step? Make that next step, and then just do that over and over and over. And eventually the path will become a little more clear for you.
I love that. It is really so simple. Just always starts with that awareness and that acknowledgement.
Yeah. Just the awareness, acknowledgement, being able to sit in all of the discomfort that can come with it
Hmm.
of like, well, gosh, I thought I had it all figured out. Maybe I don't. And also be aware that there's so much opportunity at this moment. It can feel scary, but this is really the beginning of the launch for you.
Yes. And that's exciting. That gets me excited.
Yes.
Yeah.
So exciting.
Ah,
I'm excited because I can see, I'm sure
mm,
you do too. When your clients come and they're in that place, you can see where they will be. And
yes.
it's our jobs as coaches to get them there. I like to imagine it, you're on a path, the person like I was on a path, but it was so dark. And
Mhm.
I'm like, I don't know where I'm going. And when you hire a coach or when you bring someone into your life to walk next to you, they're handing you the flashlight. You're still walking,
Yeah,
but it's making it a little more clear where they're going.
absolutely. And if you're too weak at the point to like hold the flashlight, we'll help hold the flashlight for you, right?
We'll help
Like,
hold the flashlight. We'll put our arm around. We're going to
yep,
buckle in right next to you because this isn't something that's easily done in isolation.
right. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
so glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
This has been so fun. Where can people learn more about you and your work if they want to listen to your show, all that good stuff? Tell us where they can find you.
Yes. So my website is jenniferdelaquadri.com. My podcast is Subtle Shifts with Jennifer Della Quadri. I also have a free Facebook group, Subtle Shifts Community. You can join in. We do lots of things in there. I provide lots of support. Actually, this month I'm doing free coaching, and that may be something that I continue. Love to have more people in there just to connect. And on Instagram at jennifer.delaquadri.
Awesome. Well, we will make sure all of the links are there for everyone. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today. And please go check out her show, Subtle Shifts, wherever you enjoy podcasts. Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Karen.
Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're inspired to take action by committing to one of the tips or strategies we talked about in today's episode. If you want more accountability and support, I've got your back. Book a complimentary Empowered Exit Strategy call today. Visit KarenFreeland.com to learn more and book your 45-minute session. Until next time, stay fabulous.